San Diego will receive, and Thomas Morstead will be kicking off. And back to receive, Richard Goodman for the San Diego Chargers. 3-1 coming in. The Saints winless at 0-4. And the game is on from the Big Easy with Goodman starting to come out, and then he was too close to the sideline, decides to take a knee. And let's take a look at the San Diego starters.
Phillip Rivers, NC State.
Jackie Battle, Houston. LeRon McClain, Alabama. Malcolm Floyd, Wyoming.
Robert Meacham, Booker T. Washington High School.
Antonio Gates, Detroit Central High School.
Jared Gaither, Maryland, Go Terps.
Tyrone Green, Auburn.
Nick Hardwick, Purdue.
Louis Vasquez, Texas Tech.
Jeremy Clary, Kansas State University.
That line entrusted with trying to protect Rivers, who's much more effective from inside the pocket than outside. They start with Jackie Battle as the running back. We're going to see a lot of Ryan Matthews as well tonight. And off the play fake, they get to Breeze as Corey White comes on a blitz, but he gets it away, and it's caught by Antonio Gates. So off the corner and uncontested, and a near sack. But the pass a short gain, second down, and let's call it 10. No gain.
Corey White's going to come right off the edge. And last week, the New Orleans Saints were absolutely horrible getting pressure on Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And so what do to start this game? Send a little message.
Yes, they do. Turns out to be a loss of one. They're going to spot it at the 19-yard line. Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, up until last year, the head coach of the St. Louis Rams. And out of the eye this time, they give it to Jackie Battle. He swings to the outside. To the 22 he goes. Lofton makes the tackle. 3rd and 8. And let's take a look at that St. D.
Cameron Jordan, UC Berkeley.
Broderick Bonkley, Florida State University.
Cedric Ellis, USC.
Will Smith, The Ohio State.
Scott Shanley, Nebraska. Curtis Lofton, Oklahoma.
Will Herring, Auburn.
Jabari Greer, Jackson, Tennessee. Roman Harper, Alabama.
Malcolm Jenkins, The Ohio State University.
Pat Robinson, Florida State.
It'll be 3rd down and 7 now. Ronnie Brown comes in as the 3rd down back, flanking Rivers in the shotgun. And the Saints put some pressure on him. The pass is incomplete. So it is a 3 and out for that St. D. That time Martez Wilson came blitzing through. They put the heat on Rivers, and they'll have to punt.
Well, one of the things they wanted to do was get some pressure. You're going to see Martez Wilson come looping inside here. They really, with their 4 guys inside, don't have a lot of quick twitch kind of guys. But Martez Wilson's one of those guys I think will get a lot of action tonight because of his ability to rush the passer.
You saw Sproles, the former Charger, in his 2nd year now here. Cyphers is one of the best kickers in the league. And Mike's boot is fair caught at the 30-yard line by Sproles. So Drew Brees coming on out, and let's take a look at the New Orleans offense.
Drew Brees, Purdue Boilermaker. Pierre Thomas, Illinois.
Jedediah Gabriel Collins, Washington State. Marcus Colston, Hofstra University.
Devery Henderson, LSU.
Jimmy Graham, the U.
Jamon Bushrod, Towson University.
Ben Grubbs, Auburn University.
Brian Delaponte, Cal Berkeley.
Jari Evans, Bloomsburg University.
Zach Streif, Northwestern University.
Grubbs coming over from Baltimore in the offseason, and the first pass by Brees is caught by Devery Henderson for a short gain. Antoine Cason making the tackle. So Drew Brees last year breaking Dan Marino's single season mark, and this season 191 passes in those first 4 games, all losses. Only Drew Bledsoe in 1995 threw more over that period of time. Pierre Thomas is the running back. He takes the handoff, and over right guard he goes to the 38. 3rd and 2 coming up. Let's take a look at the San Diego D.
Von Martin, University of Western Ontario. Brian Franklin, University of Tennessee.
Corey Leggett, Illinois.
Jarrett Johnson, Alabama.
Taquillo Spikes, Auburn.
Donald Butler, Washington.
Sean Phillips, Purdue.
Quentin Jammer, Texas.
Tari Bigby, University of Ja Rastafari.
Eric Weddle, Utah.
Antoine Cason, University of Arizona.
Weddle playing very well, one of the best safeties in the league, and on 3rd and short, They convert as the pass is taken by Greg Camarillo. With Lance Moore out tonight with a hamstring, Camarillo will see a lot of action, and Breeze picks up the first down.
Yeah, it's interesting. Camarillo was a guy that was just recently picked up, but all summer long he worked out with Drew Brees in California, had a couple of weeks in training camp, so really no issue at all. Come in, a little plug and play.
Camarillo's been around 7 years in the league. Mark Ingram now comes in the backfield. They rotate running backs, do the Saints, and we've got a false start. First penalty of the game against the Saints.
False start, number 18, offense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Carl Sheffers is the referee, and there is the interim head coach. Since Joe Vitt is the interim head coach, but he's suspended, they go down to Aaron Kromer, who is their offensive line coach, and that is what he will be after 2 more games. Peyton gone for the year. Vitt will take over in the 7th game at Denver, and then Kromer goes back to coaching the offensive line and running the running game. It's first down and 15, and Breeze throws, and it's incomplete at midfield. You had Quentin Jammer coming in, making contact with Marcus Colston simultaneously. 2nd and 15.
Well, I know the Saints are excited to have Marcus Colston back, but he's not a speed guy, and so Quentin Jammer knows that. He's just going to sit on this route and then come in and play the ball. One of the things that they lack a little bit now around here is that pure speed, take the top off kind of receiver, now that Robert Meacham's playing for the other side.
Meacham with San Diego. Meanwhile, you've got David Thomas, a tight end, was split wide right, and then Breeze loses the ball. Ingram picks it up, and Ingram, after Eric Weddle hits Breeze, is able to turn it back upfield for a few yards. But Breeze, before that arm is coming forward, loses the football.
Look how far back Eric Weddle is coming on this blitz, and Drew Brees probably never even considered that he'd be coming from that far back. Luckily, Ingram there to make the recovery. Good job by Weddle, who's turned into a turnover machine over the last couple of years, more interceptions than anybody.
3rd and 14, so Sproles is in the backfield with Breeze. Chargers showing blitz and backing off. Here they come again. And it's Sproles, and he gets buried by Corey Lynch. So they go to their 3rd down back, the former Charger, and Lynch is right there to knock him down behind the line of scrimmage.
A lot of good safety play so far in this one. Watch how far back he comes. He's in man coverage, which helps. As soon as his man started out into the flat for the screen, Lynch came flying up, and that was a good series by the Chargers defense.
Thomas Morstead will punt. Eddie Royal, the former Denver Bronco, will back up and field at the 5-yard line and get taken down at the 9-yard line by Courtney Roby. That is a great special teams play. Well, it's always dangerous to field a punt that deep, and he pays the price. Chargers will start from the 9 when we come back to New Orleans. Jackie Battle is the running back from the 9-yard line, and Rivers buys some time and goes deep downfield, and it's caught on the run by Malcolm Floyd. And Floyd gets out past the 45-yard line. He and Gates are the primary threats in Rivers' arsenal.
Well, I tell you, that is some throw by Phillip Rivers on the move. Malcolm Floyd, their big play threat, has been for any number of years, and especially this year with Vincent Jackson moving on to Tampa Bay. But the angle of that throw, because of the little movement by Rivers, I think almost threw Jabari Greer off. It came in a direction he wasn't really expecting.
Gain of 39 out to the 48-yard line. And here's Battle, who played last year with the Kansas City Chiefs. Battle is the kind of guy, I mean, he's going to be a very efficient and effective guy, should be, in certain situations for San Diego. One of the reasons he's getting the start, Ryan Matthews, 2 things. Number 1, got hurt in preseason, broken clavicle, and just came back in week 3, and there he is. And he's had fumble issues, as he did against Atlanta in the red zone. So last week, everybody thought, well, you know, it was Norv Turner sending a message. He said, no, not really. He said, I just wanted Battle to get us started, and Ryan will get his carries, and he did in the second half last week. 2nd and 9. And here is Matthews, who has to reach for a high pass and can't haul it in. So it'll be 3rd down, and Rivers is exasperated.
Yeah, and he should be, because that was going to be wide open. The man coverage that was going to be on Matthews ended up blitzing. There was nobody on that half of the field. They might still be running on that one for a touchdown, and it was just a routine screen pass. You'll see it. The man coverage is going to come up off the edge and then rush, and look at this. Blockers in front and nobody there.
And you saw Turner shake his head on the sideline. 3rd down and 9. And Rivers going deep, has a man again, and this time it's Floyd inside the 20 to the 15-yard line. Patrick Robinson, man for man with him, and Floyd beats him. 2 big gains on this drive, 32 yards.
Well, everybody's saying, how come the Saints aren't blitzing more? They got to get pressure on the quarterback. Here's why. Because when they blitz this year, opposing quarterbacks have had nearly a perfect quarterback rating. They simply have not been able to defend this on the back end, and it just continues. So now as a defensive coordinator, you go, how many am I going to try?
From the 19-yard line. Empty backfield this time with Battle flanked wide to the left. And Rivers has time. Outlet pass to Battle to the 16-yard line. Here's exactly what Chris was talking about. Saints last year, Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator, blitzing half the time. This year, 29% of the time. And there is the passer rating. And you can see there, 150, almost a perfect passer rating against the blitz. And that's Steve Spagnuolo, who's trying to get things fixed here, as he did in New York when he was with the Giants in their Super Bowl year in 07. 2nd down and 7. And now it's Jackie Battle for a gain of 2. And that'll make it 3rd down. 3rd down and 6. Halfway through the opening quarter.
It is kind of interesting to see this sort of running back shuffle, and on 3rd down, a lot of times you get Ronnie Brown, the former Dolphin and former Eagle, but for the Saints, this is where they're trying to win games. They understand they have issues on defense. This has been a bad year. Their feeling is if they can win down here in the red zone, they can win football games with their offense.
And that's Brown in the backfield on 3rd down and 6. Saints blitz, they pick it up, and it is Robert Meacham for the touchdown. So Meacham comes home, and Royal gets into it with Malcolm Jenkins, and Meacham with a flag after the play, so the touchdown will count pending the review upstairs. As they do with all scoring plays, they will look at it. And it's been tough for Rivers and Meacham to get together, and then it would figure Meacham comes home to New Orleans, and he's into the end zone.
It's really a nice throw that time by Phillip Rivers. It was Corey White in the coverage and had pretty good coverage through the back shoulder. And for Meacham, he's not gotten off to a good start. Does he hold on all the way through? Absolutely. Nobody happier than that young man. And his old buddy Malcolm Jenkins was ready to fight whoever was in his way. Just happened to catch Eddie Royal.
Confirmed upstairs. So Rivers down the field in 3.5 minutes goes 91 yards. 2 big passes to Floyd. Then Meacham gets into the end zone. You've got Nick Novak for the extra point. Nate Kading with a pulled groin will miss a 2nd straight game. So Novak, who was their kicker last year after Kading got hurt on opening day, puts it through. 6:56 to go in the opening quarter. It's the Chargers on top of the Saints, 7-0. To the 50 for the kickoff because the penalty was on Jenkins. So this should be
guys at upper deck better duck.
Guaranteed touchback. And it would have been a field goal. So Breeze will go to work from the 20 with San Diego on top in the first quarter. Before Bountygate, Steve Spagnuolo had been hired by Sean Payton to become the defensive coordinator. There he is, talking to a couple of his charges. Pete Carmichael calls the plays. So when it came time to find the interim coach, which turns out to be Aaron Cromer because Vitt was suspended through the first 6 games. The Saints decided, and there is Peyton looking on, it would be best to have Cromer be the head coach and handle the administrative responsibilities and let the offensive and defensive coordinators handle those responsibilities. And on first down, Pierre Thomas to the 21-yard line. And I can't think, and I'm sure you can't either, Chris, of a similar situation in the history of the National Football League.
No, I can't. And, you know, for Aaron Cromer, it's a tough spot. He says in 2 weeks, I'm going to be the offensive line coach. I understand that. But it's a completely different feel. We go into Friday practices, and it used to be so energetic. Greg Williams and Jonathan Vilma against Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and they had 6 plays where they were a little side bet action and people cheering and going nuts, and much more subdued now. I know 1-4 and all that kind of stuff, but it's a different feel to this Saints team.
Second down and 9. Over the middle, that's caught by Colston. Still working through a bad foot, but having a good year. Eric Weddle makes the tackle up at the 25-yard line.
You know, one of my favorite parts about the whole Johnny Unitas and Drew Brees story is the fact that neither one of those guys were really, high draft picks and huge expectations. Johnny Unitas was cut. Drew Brees was let go by San Diego. And here they are, we're talking about them holding one of the most impressive records of all time.
Trying to throw a touchdown pass in a 48th consecutive game. 3rd and 5. Brees hanging in the pocket, fires over the middle, and that's caught for a first down. He finds Marcus Colston at the 37-yard line, tackled by Marcus Gilchrist.
Just going to get good blocks by everybody along the way. Darren Sproles going to pick up the blitz here, but watch the way Brees just hangs in there. I don't even know if I can explain how hard that is to do. I played a little quarterback in high school and college, and it just feels like there's bullets flying all around you, and you just got to keep your concentration down the field.
One of the shorter quarterbacks in the league is 6 feet even, and that's Mark Ingram, their #1 pick. They had 2 picks in the first round in 11th. The running game has been a problem for the Saints, and because of that, Brees has not nearly been as effective on play action as he's normally been. They're trying to get Ingram going. You've got Sproles in the backfield and Pierre Thomas as well, and there is Sproles on this play. 2nd and 4. And Brees swinging it to the outside and incomplete. Jammer covering Devery Henderson. 3rd and 4. Take a look at this for the Saints. What's interesting here, and you can see what they've been doing, and of course a lot of it is because there's high-scoring games and playing from behind. On first down, about half the time will they throw the ball, and then after that, take a look at that. 86% on 2nd down, 93 on 3rd, and on 4th every time.
It's almost like occasionally they run on first down and they go, enough of that.
Yep.
Here we go. Let's get the ball in Drew Brees' hands and try and stick this thing in the end zone.
That's what happens when you get a lot of 2nd and 8s and 2nd and 9s. And 3rd and 4, over the middle, going down, making the grab is Camarillo. So starting for the injured Lance Moore, Camarillo has already caught 2 passes in the quarter.
A guy that doesn't get a lot of attention is the center, Brian De La Puente. But watch this stunt. He's going to come. He's going to see it late, pick it up beautifully. And on the outside, you get Sean Phillips, who's getting plenty of attention out there. But this is a Saints offense that really builds around the interior of this offensive line.
From the 44 on a roll to the right, and it's behind the intended receiver. That's the tight end, Jimmy Graham. 2 of the best tight ends in the league in tonight's game. Graham on one side and the veteran Antonio Gates on the other.
It's been a good start, not a great start so far for Jimmy Graham, and Gronkowski kind of the same way. Last year they were remarkable to watch those 2 go at it. On the final weekend, it was Jimmy Graham who held the all-time tight end receiving yards record, and then Gronkowski a little bit later in the afternoon broke that record.
Can't sneak either of them by anybody these days. On 2nd down and 10, catch is made at the 41 by Jimmy Graham. Graham and Gates, of course, share the basketball connection. Jimmy playing at the Miami and Antonio playing at Kent State, and that's what the tight ends have become in today's National Football League. basketball guys in football uniforms.
Yeah, and you know, they're different kind of body types. You know, that's sort of the Charles Barkley type there. He's going to get rebound position and reach out and make the play. Jimmy Graham about 6'7". They love throwing him those alley-oop balls down the middle, and I don't know how you defend against either of them.
8 in the box here, at least for the moment, for the Chargers, and then they back off. Zone blitz. Brees steps up, finds time, wide open, and there it is. Drew Brees to Devery Henderson. Drew Brees setting one of those records for the ages. Brittany Brees is there. You saw Peyton on a 3rd and 6.
Down pass. Ladies and gentlemen, Drew Brees has just set a new NFL record by throwing a touchdown pass in 48 consecutive games. He passes the great Johnny Unitas, who set the previous mark 52 years ago. Congratulations, Drew, on this incredible achievement.
And it is incredible. I mean, there are records, and then there are records. That falls into the latter category. That's a major one. Hartley's extra point is good. So Brees in a 4-minute drive, 80 yards, 9 plays, 73 of those yards through the air, and ties the game with a record. Brees already on to the next thing. Looking at the pictures, 48 straight games, the equivalent of 3 full seasons. That one to Henderson. During the streak, Henderson has caught 5 Brees touchdown passes. And now Morstead to kick off with the game tied at 7. And Goodman's going to come out from about 7 yards deep out to the 23-yard line, and a penalty flag back at the 11-yard line. Get the call from Sheffers.
During the return, holding, number 81, return team. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
Drew Brees, 48 straight.
Well, here is the play that you're going to be seeing more than a few times. It was just classic Brees coming up, stepping up, a little pump fake, double move by Henderson on the outside, and there he goes, right by Quentin Jammer, and history was made, and I'm glad I was here. Joe Unitas in the crowd, and he even let Drew Brees know that my father would have been proud to have you hold that record.
Brittany Brees, his wife, they just had their 3rd son a couple of months ago. Ball is at the 6-yard line after the penalty on the run back, and then the ball is handed off to Ryan Matthews, their #1 draft choice out of Fresno State a couple of years back, tackled by Robinson to give them some breathing room.
You know, it's one of those, it's nice job here by Ryan Matthews, just a vision up the field. As he starts up the field, he's going to take this thing and bounce it out. There's really probably not exactly where that thing was intended to go, but he saw it, and for Ryan Matthews, every time he runs, I'm sure he's thinking, hang on to the football. There's that weighted football in practice now just to remind him all the time.
Traded up to the Chargers in the 2010 draft, play fake, and then there's Matthews reaching down to make the catch and might have a first down. We'll see where they give him forward progress, and that should move the change to the 34. Matthews grew up in Southern California, loved the Chargers, loved LaDainian Tomlinson. So that was his number 21 in high school and in college. Then he comes here, and they'll probably retire LaDainian's number someday, so he goes to 24. And of course the Chargers, after Tomlinson had left, it was time to go get a back, and Matthews turns out to be the guy. And again, it becomes an injury issue and a fumble issue. From the 34-yard line, but a kid with obviously a lot of talent. Now the handoff again to Matthews, so 3 plays in a row to Matthews to the 41. Robinson makes the tackle. Let's go to Michelle.
Well, Drew Brees brought the record-setting football to the sidelines, held it up to the fans, but then quickly got it to the equipment managers. You can see it there. They put it in this black equipment trunk. By the way, they immediately locked it up. We asked them to unlock it just for us, and they did. But as soon as we're done with this, they're locking it back up, Al.
I'll bet they are. Thank you, Michelle. You know the combination, by the way?
They don't tell me anything around here.
48. Second down and 3 at the 41-yard line. And that is incomplete, and it is Malcolm Floyd with Jabari Greer all over him. No flag, incomplete. 3rd down and 3 upcoming.
Little bump there by Jabari Greer. Nothing called, though. Let's take a close look at this one. Yeah, he kind of hooked that arm, didn't he, before that ball came in there. But those pros that have been around for a while, sometimes those subtle little moves, you get away with it. 3rd down and 3. When Greg Williams was defensive coordinator, I could have told you what this was, but not so sure with Spagnuolo now. He used to blitz all the time here.
43 seconds left in the quarter. And Rivers will buy time, rolling to his right, then sidearms one, incomplete. Broken up by Corey White, intended for Eddie Royal. 4th down.
You know, that's about the 2nd or 3rd time that we've seen Phillip Rivers now rolling out of the pocket. And Norv Turner was the first to admit to us, boy, if we pass protect for Phillip Rivers and he stands in the pocket and can deliver the football, he's as good as anybody playing the game. If defenses can get him out on the move, though, sometimes he has his troubles. And so far, the Saints have been moving him off the spot a bit tonight.
Case in point right there. Mike Cyphers to punt. And it's a line drive with a flag thrown. And Sproles will bring the ball back out to the 28-yard line.
During the kick, holding number 95 of the return team, 10-yard penalty, 1st down.
Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. Looking pretty beautiful tonight. Of course, the scene of all of that misery back in '05 with Katrina and all that. And Balin Breeze were the headset to protect those ears. Great picture, of course, on the cover of Sports Illustrated. There they were when Drew won the Super Bowl following the '09 season.
Mike 5-1. Ready.
From the 9-yard line, 1st down.
Ready for shot.
And this is Thomas taking it out to the 13-yard line and what figures to be the final play of the period. And it will be. So Breeze gets the mark early tonight. We have played 1 quarter in New Orleans with Sean Payton looking on. San Diego 7, New Orleans 7. Sunday Night Football resumes right after these messages. And there is John Pagano, the Chargers defensive coordinator. His brother Chuck, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, diagnosed earlier this week with a treatable form of leukemia. You probably know most of the story. Undergoing treatment, Bruce Arians takes over, and they pulled off a stunning win today over Green Bay in Indianapolis. And here is Devery Henderson getting taken down at the line of scrimmage as we start the period on what was a 2nd and 6 and is now a 3rd and 5. And our very best to Chuck Pagano at Indianapolis. Everything
can you imagine,
looking up right now anyway.
Yeah, sitting in that hospital room today and all he's going through and watching his team come back and win that football game is just remarkable. And I know that John's so proud of him, and we talked a long time about it this week and really thinking about him almost every minute of the day.
And wearing his brother's initials, CP, on his hat tonight on 3rd and 5, and Breeze under pressure, and he gets it away before he can get sacked. That was Kendall Reyes coming in, and the pass is incomplete, so it's 4th down and 4.
Now, Takeo Spikes here is going to come in and get the pressure. And, of course, by now most people know Takeo's story. He has been playing a long time in the National Football League without ever playing on a playoff team. He understands this is going to be his great opportunity on this team, and he is leading the charge.
Over 200 regular season games, the pressure put on that time in Morstead gets the way of the kick, and it turns out to be a fairly decent one considering the pressure. And the Chargers will take over at their own 36-yard line. Philip Rivers, you take a look at what he does when he throws over the middle, and a lot of that, of course, is Antonio Gates. A very good rating, and he goes outside. It's not so good. However, tonight, remember, he went outside to Floyd in the first quarter, so they like to keep him in the pocket. He's better there. He's better throwing it over the middle. And, of course, you know, there's so many sub-stories to tonight's game. One of them is that Rivers and Brees were teammates for 2 years at San Diego, and then San Diego had to make a decision following the 05 season and chose to stay with Philip.
Yeah, and Rivers is telling us that Drew Brees was, when I came in there, his whole attitude was, well, he's not going to play. And Rivers' attitude was, oh, yes, I am. And so it was two bulls in the same china shop for a long time.
Yeah, Rivers, the #1 pick. And this is Matthews for a game of 12. Of course, that was the draft where Eli Manning's coming out and saying, I'm not going to play for San Diego. And San Diego says, we're picking you anyway, which they did. And then about an hour later or less than that, A.J. Smith, the general manager, says, okay. He makes a deal with New York. That's how Eli, of course, winds up with the Giants. It's how Rivers, who gets drafted by the Giants, winds up in a trade with San Diego. And, of course, so they also got Sean Merriman, gave him a lot of good years at linebacker. Nate Kading came in that deal, the kicker. Turned out to be pretty good. Pretty good for both teams. Ronnie Brown is the back here from the 47-yard line. Swing it out to Royal. Royal gets a nice block. Spins around, seeking that first down and getting it. As he got a block from Gaither. Gaither, the left tackle, going to the outside to let Royal get free.
You just can't believe somebody this big can run this fast. Jared Gaither runs about a 4.7 40, or at least he did before he started hurting his back. And watch him get out in front. Ryan Matthews, the running back, was telling us occasionally he pulls and it's hard to catch him. I mean, there just aren't many guys that size that can move like that, and he has made a huge difference since he's come back to the Chargers.
From the 42. Matthews again to the left side, and San Diego running the ball extremely well. That time the fullback LaRon McLean leads the way.
Watch Gaither on this play. We just talked about how fast he is, but watch how athletic he is here. Staying on this block on the open field against a really talented Will Smith, and really until Cedric Ellis trips him up, he was going to stay there the whole time. He has had a lot of back injuries. He's bounced around a little bit, but when he is healthy, he can make a huge difference on a football team. If he stays healthy this year, the Chargers are going to be tough.
Missed the first 3 games this season, back injury, weightlifting. And then you got action and a false start.
False start, number 80, offense.
This time it's
5-yard
on
penalty.
Floyd.
First down.
You know what's amazing about Gaither? We saw him last year. Baltimore let him go. Then we have a Sunday night game in Kansas City where he just got destroyed by the Steelers. So they let him go, and he goes to San Diego, and now he's a godsend for him.
It was amazing to talk to Norv Turner, because that was our last impression of him. We're like, wait a minute, Jared Gaither, that guy we saw as your savior, and now you see him out here playing the game healthy, and you can see why.
From the 35 on 1st and 15. Rivers, good protection, but he has to dump it to Battle. Battle takes it to the 31-yard line, tackled by the former Falcon Curtis Lofton.
Now I realize this is first in a real long situation, but this is what they were facing out of their front four last week. Just no pressure, and it was Aaron Rodgers standing in the pocket all day long just like that. I can barely remember a time that he was even touched. Here's Gaither working on the outside again. So somehow, with all these first-round draft picks for the New Orleans Saints along that defensive line, they have to start winning some one-on-one battles that they have not won this year.
One of them right there, Will Smith, would have served a 4-game suspension, part of the Bounty Gate deal, but that was vacated, at least for the moment. So he's played every game this year, 2nd and 11. And Rivers going deep and adjusting, but unable to make the catch is Floyd. And then Greer turns around and sees the flag and says, no.
Well, Jabari may have gotten away with one. They're going to talk this one over, right? It's kind of an interesting call. He really never turns his head around, and he's going to try and knock the ball away.
Interference, number 33, defense, automatic, first down.
Let's take one more look here. Hey, Malcolm Floyd's got some nice releases off the ball. Yeah, I think he was there early, don't you? I mean, he definitely just got his hand there and right in the chest. I think that's a good call.
That takes it to the 6-yard line. Pass interference, a 25-yard penalty in this case. Battle is in the backfield. McMichael now comes to flank Rivers to his left. They give it to Battle on an inside give, and he works his way to the 1-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and 1.
And we're talking about some of the fumbling issues that Ryan Matthews had. Jackie Battle yet to fumble in his career, and as a result of that, you're going to see him all over the place down here on the goal line. I doubt that after the Falcon fumble, you're going to see many more carries for Ryan Matthews, so fantasy leaguers adjust.
226 career carries for Battle. Fumbles, 0. 2nd down and goal. And Rivers takes a look at the defensive alignment and says, let me talk this over with Coach Turner. Timeout, San Diego. After the timeout at 2nd down and goal, the ball's at the 2-yard line. And Rivers is going to roll and then try to go to the back of the end zone. Incomplete. He had Royal short just past the goal line, and Meacham, who earlier collected a touchdown pass from Breeze deep. It'll be 3rd and goal.
Yeah, Robert Meacham's going to get to the back corner, and yet this thing's going to get a little bit thrown behind. Again, Philip Rivers on the move. Maybe still had a chance to make that catch, but that should have been a layup. That was not exactly where Philip Rivers was trying to throw that one. They're trying to get away from that zone blitz pressure, though.
3rd and goal. You have Meacham and Floyd wide right, Royal wide left. And Rivers will throw, and it is incomplete. Harper is right there. Gates trying to induce a flag. Incomplete, 4th and goal.
Boy, I tell you, you don't see many people knock the football out of Antonio Gates' hand. What a play by Roman Harper. This looked like just one of those rebound touchdowns that Gates is known for, and somehow Harper found it and knocked it out. Philip Rivers was telling us that he just rarely ever sees the ball get knocked out of the hands of Antonio Gates. Well, Roman Harper said, check that out.
Nick Novak now for a chip shot 20-yard field goal. But look at that indoors. He doesn't like it. But that one is good from 20. And the San Diego Chargers are back up on top. But Rivers is frustrated. Thought he should have had a touchdown. Well, Drew Brees setting that record, and through the 47-game streak coming into tonight, Unitas stopping at 47. Take a look at that. Brees throwing about twice as many completions and passes about 50% more during that period of time. There is Joe Unitas looking on. You know, the funny thing here, I'm just thinking of another thing here, Chris. Brees has the record right now, but in the meantime, in New England, Tom Brady threw one today. He's got a 37-game streak going, so he's right on Brees' tail right now.
Yeah, assuming that Brees ever stops.
Right.
You know, last year he got close. What was it, about 6 seconds to go in St. Louis?
Yep.
To keep that streak alive, he threw a touchdown pass. So
it was garbage time too. They were down by 17, and he threw it to keep it going. And Sproles downs it in the end zone. Well, for Unitas, over that sparkling career, NFL record set all records, of course, by the time he retired. and they've now been eclipsed with 40,000 yards. I mean, at that point in '73, that was the record, and now Brett Favre holds the record with over 71,000 yards.
Yeah, but the amazing thing, when Johnny retired, like I know him, like when Johnny Unitas retired, you know, he was 7,000 more passing yards than anybody else and 51 more touchdowns than anyone else at the time that he retired.
He was just a joy and a treat for anybody who saw him. And then stopped in the backfield is Darren Sproles for a loss of 1. Again, we'll go back to the first quarter in case you picked this up late tonight. The record setter right here.
Well, they tried to come with one of those zone blitzes, sent everybody up the middle, and great protection by the interior of this offensive line, which is really how they've built this offensive line. They've got a 6-foot-tall quarterback, so they have tried to spend their money on their guards.
Second down and 11, and that's caught up at the 26-yard line by number 19. A little symmetrical here with Henderson, number 19, catching the record-setting pass, and that's the number, of course, made famous by Johnny U in Baltimore. And then Johnny Unitas, at the end of his career, spent that one season in San Diego, and it just didn't look right.
No, it didn't. But you know, the funny thing is, when Johnny was drafted in his first year, he got cut and played in a $6 beer league for the rest of that season. 3 years later, the greatest game of all time.
3rd and 4, and Henderson. And the Charger bench is saying no, he lost control, but the official is right there to say he controlled it inbounds, first down.
Yeah, and they're giving Henderson, who is the one deep threat, a big cushion here. Already gotten beat on one side. Quentin Jammer did on a double move, and Kaysen got beat a week ago on a double move. So you get the feeling that Drew Brees is just setting the hook here. Now they're going to throw a few underneath, and then come back to that double move again.
Brees 11 of 15. He's thrown for 100 yards now off the play fake. Hanging in the pocket. Wide open is Marcus Colston to the 25-yard line.
This is just classic Drew Brees. They do this play all the time. They bootleg and throw back this way across the field. So as the defense and the linebackers start sprinting the other way because of Brees' action, they throw back across the field and hit a big play. It's on tape. Everybody's seen it, and they still can't stop it.
Gain of 40. Colston has now caught 3.
You can see Drew Brees trying to see over the top of his offensive line. Had to crane his neck a little bit to try and see what Marcus Colston was doing.
From the 24. And Brees craning that neck again. And that one is incomplete. And we'll check in with Michelle.
Well, you know, Robert Meacham played with Brees here in New Orleans. Gates played with Brees in San Diego. Both have said the big difference with Brees is his size, that you've got to be open so he can see you, and you're going to try and see him. But Gates said he could never see Brees, but the ball would eventually just come out of the quarterback's hands like a cannon, he said. So couldn't see Brees, just waited to see the ball.
That was great, wasn't it? It's like a 6-year-old trying to see over dad to throw a pass or something. That 6-year-old's pretty good.
Yeah. 2nd and 10 from the 24-yard line. 8 minutes to the half. Sproles to the outside. He goes to the 19, tripped up by Kaysen. And boy, was Brees thrilled to get Sproles away from San Diego last year.
And what did Phillip Rivers say to us?
I hated it.
Sick every time I watch him play for the New Orleans Saints. He just couldn't believe. You think about how many yards that Darren Sproles has gotten, and cheap yards for a quarterback. You know, you give him that little quick route and get it to him, and he breaks the tackle and goes for 20 yards. And nobody has more yards since he's came in the league than Darren Sproles does.
Runs, catches, and runs back punts and
First
kickoffs.
charge timeout, New Orleans.
And the Saints take a timeout.
Well, for Drew Brees, there's no question of the talent. He holds all the records. The only obstacle he has to overcome is just trying to find the guys down the field. There you see a little peek over the top on the record breaker, up on his toes. Get up tall, see over those big offensive linemen. But let's give credit to the interior of this offensive line. Watch the pocket up there. Plenty of room for him to step up despite the fact the blitz was on. And Drew Brees putting on a show out here on this record-breaking night.
After the timeout, 3rd down and 5. In the pocket again, going to the end zone, and it is Colston for the touchdown.
Did he catch that with one hand? This is just tremendous. He is going to hold the defensive back off with his left hand and catch it with one hand as this thing is floated in perfectly. Watch it right up here. Nice release, a little over the top touch. Hold him off with that backhand. Only need one to make that catch. Got him around the neck. Oh, that's great. Look at that.
Beats the corner. Gilchrist, Chargers a little short at corner. Sharice Wright is hurt. They had to sign Chris Carr earlier in the week. Touchdown has been confirmed upstairs. Came on a 3rd down and 5 after a timeout. And the extra point by Hartley is good. 76 yards, 5 plays. Brees has already thrown for 159 yards, and the Saints have the lead by 4.
I've never seen that one called. I think they forgot to tell the people in this crowd this team's 0-4. They just don't care. He's got a little Marino throw in him too, you know, kind of really up off of that back, hip, and leg.
The what? Right.
Okay, sounds good.
Join the NFL and the American Cancer Society and support a Crucial Catch campaign. Visit NFL.com/auction to bid on authentic NFL pink gear worn by NFL players and coaches. In honor of what's going on tonight, that's the lighting around the Superdome. Antonio Garay inactive tonight, but sending his own little message. And Marcus Colston tying Joe Horn, most career touchdown catches in Saints history, at 50. A yard into the end zone. Here comes Richard Goodman. And he will get stuffed at the 20-yard line.
Well, I know that if I were a scout, the number I would be most interested in is release time. And we have done this for a lot of quarterbacks. 0.3 is really fast. That's superstar fast. And so far, Phillip Rivers has been underneath that on several occasions. As a receiver, it just helps you so much to know that the defensive back is not going to get a chance to react to your quarterback starting that windup and the throwing motion. And so many times he can fit balls in where others can't.
Start from the gun, Matthews next to Rivers. And Matthews on a screen. Gets a block, takes it out to the 27-yard line. Gain of 8.
Well, you know, no blitz coming on that play, but Norv Turner this week certainly understood that there was a lot of pressure on the New Orleans Saints defense to create a little bit of a pass rush. And he said, well, if they're going to be coming with their blitzes and stunts and all those things to try and get the local press off their back, you're going to see more than a few screens out of us tonight. And so far they've been effective and could have been even more effective if they didn't miss that one.
Well, you saw Cromer, the interim head coach, talking to the offensive line. He is the offensive line coach. And Spagnuolo running the D right now, top to bottom, 2nd down and 3. And again, the handoff goes to Matthews with some good running out to the 30-yard line. 1st down for San Diego.
You know, I think Ryan Matthews getting benched was kind of good for him. At the end of the game last week, he came in and really kind of closed the door in that one. But he has really been running hard and sort of fearless in the game so far. You love seeing your backs going straight up the field, diving for the 1st down, and obviously hanging on to the football, the key for him.
Brown back in the game. Last week he had 60 yards, 10 carries, 4th quarter at KC. Tonight he's averaging almost 10 yards a carry. In fact, more. 5 carries for 53. And Rivers stepping up, and the juggling one-handed catch cannot be made by Ronnie Brown. It'll be 2nd down and 10.
You know, and they've really committed to Ronnie Brown as their 3rd down back. He's a guy that has had some leg injuries. They did with Philadelphia a year ago. Really highly drafted guy and one of the top players, and this one's just thrown a bit behind him here, unable to get around. But he shows up at the facility like 6 o'clock in the morning to go over all his blitz responsibilities. All that stuff really takes the job seriously.
Well, he's the guy. His calling card will be the Wildcat in Miami. And that one game when they unveiled it against New England a couple of years back. 2nd and 10. Matthews swinging to the outside, but he'll get taken down from behind. Cameron Jordan chasing him. #1 draft choice last year to the University of California.
Yeah, and that was a good job by Cameron Jordan not going for that tackle, because he would have gotten the penalty called for hooking the back of that shoulder pads and jersey and kind of let him go.
It disrupted the play, knocking him. We're starting to knock him to the ground at 3rd down and 10 with 5 minutes to go in the half. Blitz coming. Rivers going into traffic and then adjusting. It's Eddie Royal able to make the catch. It was Corey White who had position on him, and then Royal able to come back before going to the ground, makes the catch. 21.
Defense for contacting the quarterback in the knee area. 15-yard penalty, automatic, 1st down.
21-yard completion, and then you've got, I think, Will Smith going in and decking Rivers for the penalty.
Yeah, coming right off the edge, and Gaither blocks him, and you're just not allowed to lunge at the quarterback's knees anymore. You know, they put a lot of restrictions. It would be tough to play defense in the National Football League. But this throw is timed up so well, and Eddie Royal is a guy that they really feel like is about to bust out. He has had some fantastic practices. They're seeing it all the time. Really feel like in the next few weeks he could be a 5-6 catch a game kind of guy.
Well, they let Vincent Jackson go, signed for the big bucks in Tampa Bay. Brought in Meacham, brought in Royal. Off the play fake for Rivers, sliding to his left and then throwing it away because everybody is covered. Antonio Gates the nearest. 2nd down and 10. Gates tonight has been limited to a single catch, and that was for a loss of 1, and then he tried to get it to, Rivers did, into the end zone, and Harper was able to break it up.
You know, it's pretty amazing. Antonio Gates never played college football, you know, and Jimmy Graham's is the first to admit, he said, the reason I got a chance to be drafted in the 3rd round is because of what Antonio Gates did playing football. The basketball player comes out and makes playing tight end look easy, and they started looking for other basketball players.
2nd and 10. Right over the middle, caught at the 30, down to the 28 goes Gates. If somebody said to you, well, the all-time quarterback to tight end combination for a touchdown pass would belong to the San Diego Chargers, wouldn't you say Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow? Sure. You'd be wrong. Rivers has thrown 49 to Gates, most by any quarterback to tight end combo in NFL history. Fouts and Winslow had 41. 3rd and 2. And Rivers, after looking right, he's going to go down to the 36-yard line. Will Smith, who just had the penalty, this time gets the sack.
Well, they had the first down, no doubt about it. Gates was right out there. They had him wide open in the flat. Not sure why Rivers went away from it. You could see the pick on Shanley. Some reason he just didn't like it and ends up giving up the sack. I really got to put that one on Philip Rivers.
Well, that's a sack that takes them from what would have been about a 47-yard field goal to a 55-yard attempt by Nick Novak. So a 55-yard field goal attempt will be no good. Had the distance wide to the left, and of course the real downside to that is that Breeze gets the ball near midfield.
You know, and let's give this Saints defense a little credit. The last 2 drives now, they make the goal line stand down there, right on the 2-yard line. They come back on 3rd down and get a sack. They haven't been getting sacks this year, so this is definitely an uptick for the Saints out here so far in this one.
From the 45 now, under 3 minutes to play on the ground. And this is Mark Ingram out of Alabama. Dad played with the New York Giants in their Super Bowl championship year of 1990. 2nd and 6, and you know, Rivers saying we should have punted the ball before the kick, and when you think about it, a 55-yard attempt by a kicker who isn't even your #1 kicker, even though he was last year, and then Kading got hurt and they brought him back again. And of course, the big downside to that, as we say, you give the other team the ball at the 45-yard line.
Coaches feel like in domes they can do things they otherwise can't.
That's tip. But and again, earlier we showed you how Novak in domes hasn't been any good.
Yep.
You got a whole bunch of things going against you. 3rd and 6.
Well, Philip Rivers. Dad's a coach, right? And maybe he's going to go there.
There's Nate Kading, the longtime San Diego kicker who got hurt in the opener last year, missed the season, came back this year, and now he's got a strained groin, and he is a week-to-week proposition.
Now the Chargers with their pass rush group in there.
3rd and 6. Pressure, and this time Breeze gets slung to the ground. Corey Liuget, the #1 pick out of Illinois last year, spinning around, knocking him down, and we go to the 2-minute warning. That's a 13-yard sack and a 4th down coming up when we come back to New Orleans. Corey Liuget, that's the way it's pronounced. He is legit. 1st-round selection, 18th overall pick. Came storming through that time. Big 13-yard sack. So the Chargers get away with missing that field goal from midfield. And now Morstead is in to punt. Good deep angle kick, and Royal's going to take the ball at the 5-yard line and get pounded as he reaches the 14. The apartment's sinking.
Yeah, no, it was breathtaking at the time watching that interview.
He's the best. Bob Costas from the 14-yard line. 1st down, San Diego. They have 2 timeouts remaining. They're going to start on the ground, and this is Brown. And Brown off to the races out to the 35-yard line. So the inside give fools the Saints, saving their timeouts here. Gain of 21, 1st down.
Yeah, Randy McMichael probably doesn't get enough credit on this team, but tight end in motion, lead blocking up through the hole there, and that was big to start the drive.
Brown's first carry of the night from the 35-yard line. And Rivers outside to Matthews, and Matthews for a gain of 13 yards before he's tackled by Harper. So with alacrity, the San Diego Chargers have moved out to almost midfield.
They're doing a lot of coverage here to try and help against Antonio Gates, and Rivers is reading it beautifully, going against the safety, dropping down in the middle of the field. Here they go again.
50 seconds. Outside again, jumping up, making the catch, getting tackled right away is Robert Meacham. Gain of 7 to the 45. And San Diego will take a timeout, and Norv said, I took it earlier than that. Timeout Chargers. Chargers have 1 timeout now. The ball is at the 45-yard line of the Saints. 2nd down and 2. And they put a few seconds back on the clock. You saw Turner saying I called it earlier, and they put 5 more back on. And Rivers will go deep, and open again is Meacham, and Meacham is able to fend off White and take it into the end zone. So for 4 weeks, Rivers and Meacham really haven't been able to get on the same page. And tonight, as Meacham comes back to New Orleans, 2 touchdowns. That one good for 44 yards. And Brees says, oh, I know that guy. He's pretty good.
Wow. I mean, there's some weird things going on this Saints defense. Malcolm Jenkins sort of coming down and jumping like it was a play fake or something. Just bizarre to see them just miss coverages like they are.
Now Novak for the point after. And San Diego reassumes the lead with 36 seconds. It's 17-14, and back we go to the touchdown.
I mean, you're in a 2-minute drill, and to see a safety drop down, and okay, well, maybe it was man-to-man coverage, but if it was, the slot corner out there, Corey White, was beaten so badly, it looked like he was anticipating that he was going to have inside help, and Jenkins was just nowhere to be found. Have to ask him after the game whose fault that one was, but definitely wasn't right. Usually in man coverage, Corey White would be playing off and inside if he didn't have safety help, but you could tell when he was playing outside that he was anticipating that Malcolm Jenkins would be in the middle of the field.
Well, that's been Norv Turner's calling card through all of these years. Jimmy Johnson's offensive coordinator down in Dallas. There's the QB comparison tonight. And on that drive, think about it. Takes 72 seconds. They go 86 yards, 4 plays, and they get it started with an inside handoff to Ronnie Brown on the ground for 21 yards to set it up. And it culminates with a 44-yard touchdown pass to take the lead.
36 seconds left. We may see another 2 or 3 touchdowns out of these quarterbacks.
That's right.
I mean, it really is fun, though. I mean, the quarterback play is just so incredible at the highest level in the league right now. And these 2 guys as good as any.
Saints have 2 timeouts. And the kick. Sproles going to run it back from 4 yards in. And he gets taken down just shy of the 20-yard lines with a little bit more than a half minute to play in the half.
You know, with almost anybody else, you'd say, okay, they'll probably take a knee here, but you just don't know. You've got a weapon like Brees out there, and hard to take the ball out of his hand.
And there's Spagnuolo and Harper and talking about the coverage or lack thereof on the touchdown pass.
You know, maybe it was that they were supposed to rotate the other safety back over the top, and Jenkins was supposed to come down. Who knows?
From the 19-yard line, the Chargers will rush 4, and the pass goes to the outside and is incomplete, intended for Colston. Well, I tell you got to give Colston a lot of credit. He's got that foot, and he's having a great year, and he played great last week against Green Bay, but you can see him after almost every play. It's almost like, you know,
on that one
feel it.
In particular. I mean, he was just basically limping after he hit the ground here. Watch him. And he kind of rolled it over a little bit, and like, oh, don't give me anything else to deal with.
Yep. Plantar fascia is the problem with him. And yet tonight, a touchdown, 4 catches, 75 yards, gutting it out. 2nd and 10. And Brees slings it to Sproles on the outside, and he stays inbounds up to the 34. Saves a timeout, but you have 19 seconds left, trying to get at least field goal range for Garrett Hartley. There's Hartley staying loose.
You got it.
going to need another 27 to 30 yards to give him a half decent shot. And falling down and incomplete. That time Camarillo was on the outside, but fell down. 2nd down and 10.
All they're doing to Quentin Jammer on this side after he got beat on the double move before is they're either going outs or out and up. It seems like that's been the call almost every time to this side. So this time Jammer, obviously a lot of room to defend there. You want to throw it out, go ahead with it. But the play before was the out and up, and why Jimmy Graham's out of the game, I don't know. Not in this situation.
They were taping his right ankle before. Now they set up a screen, and Sproles will get knocked down up at the 41-yard line. Weddle says, I know you were my teammate, but hello. And timeout is taken with 5 seconds. They put 2 seconds back on the clock, so there's 7. Breeze, after the timeout, went to the sideline. They still have 1 timeout. To get into field goal range, they'd have to make it very quick and gain maybe 15 to 20 yards and get that timeout. And we'll see if Breeze can do it from the 41. Meanwhile, San Diego had won the opening toss, so New Orleans will get the ball when we start the second half.
They rotate over to Marcus Colston. That's a good idea. A little safety help this side.
Breeze flushed out. Look out from behind. Dumps it off. And it is Darren Sproles making the catch, and the clock will show 1 second. It'll be 4th down as Antoine Barnes came in to take care of Breeze as he tried to get rid of it. So 1 second left. 4th and 1. Norv is saying that play seemed to take about 11 seconds. How did it only take 6? And for Aaron Kromer, the thing you do right here is just take that second off the clock. Forget about punting or any of that stuff. So you're going to turn the ball over on downs, but it doesn't matter. Just a little kneel down here, and this is going to take us to halftime. And there it is. So that is the end of the opening half. And the Saints will get the ball with Novak kicking to Darren Sproles as we start the 3rd quarter at the Superdome. And Sproles 8 yards in. They'll start from the 20-yard line, and let's check in with Michelle.
Well, Saints tight end Jimmy Graham rolled his right ankle on his only catch of the game. I talked to Aaron Kromer at halftime, and he said Graham's going to try to play, but it, quote, doesn't look good. As far as protecting Drew Brees, he said, we got to run the ball more. We've been running it well. We have to call more of them, and that's on us. Norv Turner found his pass rush on Drew Brees outstanding, he said. He said Brees is elusive. He's tough to get to, tough to bring down. We've had some timely sacks, and we got to keep that going, but he expects Brees to get his plays.
Thank you, Michelle. And that Corey Legion sack was a big play toward the end of the half as Mark Ingram picks up 2. That loss of Graham, if he can't play or sparingly play, is huge. He's their leading receiver coming in with 24 catches. And, of course, they were also minus Lance Moore. And here's how he got hurt. Twisting that right ankle as he got taken down on his only catch of the half. So they go with 2 tight ends here, but those tight ends are David Thomas and Daniel Graham. Toss to Sproles, who cuts it back, and he gets taken down at the 25-yard line. The former Charger taken down by Vaughn Martin. It'll be 3rd down and 5. So the numbers: San Diego with a good running game, and New Orleans still unable to run the football, as has been the case all year. No turnovers in this one tonight. And now Graham comes into the game. Flex into the right side on 3rd down and 5, and Breeze will step up and then throw it behind the receiver, and picked off on the deflection by Quentin Jammer. Devery Henderson, the intended receiver, couldn't make the catch. Pass behind him, and Jammer comes in with the interception off the deflection.
Bringing Sean Phillips from a linebacker position here, and for whatever reason, Breeze kind of throws across his body there. It's behind him, and another tipped interception. And boy, I tell you, for the New Orleans Saints, that just seems to be the way that it's gone this season. You know, we talked to a couple guys who are saying, it seems like in the past, every time a break could happen, it went our way, and tonight the tip ball's going the other way.
First turnover of the game, coming a little over a minute in. And they start with Ryan Matthews in the backfield. He sets up 8 yards deep. And Matthews over the left side to the 22-yard line.
Well, Robert Meacham was big in the first half. He and Eddie Royal combined for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns, and most of the damage was done between Malcolm Jenkins and Corey White. Maybe a little miscommunication here, you never know for sure, but not supposed to leave him that wide open running down the middle of the field in some sort of a double look coverage.
He was their #1 pick, the Saints #1 pick in 07, but opted for the big bucks in San Diego. Felt at the time he just couldn't stay in New Orleans because they had to save a bunch of money to pay Breeze. 2nd and 8 to the outside. Matthews gets away inside the 20-yard line, and Matthews, breaking away from a Corey White tackle, picks up the first down.
It's just been one of those things. You get a cornerback on the outside against a professional running back, and you expect him to make the tackle one-on-one. He just motions out of the backfield that time, and White's going to come up and try and make a tackle, and he's just going to get a little stiff arm and a limp leg and go for 10.
Matthews averaging 8 yards a rush tonight. He's also caught 4 balls for 40 yards. First down from the 13-yard line. Matthews to the outside, turns the corner, and he vaults into the end zone. Touchdown, San Diego. And he's showing you tonight why they moved way up in the draft to pick him #1 2 years ago.
Yeah, and he has the kind of speed to get outside as long as he gets blocks like this from Randy McMichael on Will Herring. Right out here, he's going to get this hook block as the linebacker tries to get out. Herring well outside of him, and yet somehow McMichael able to get just enough to get that edge and get Ryan Matthews flying.
Waltz over Jenkins. So the jammer interception sets San Diego up. It takes him 1:19 to go in. Novak for the extra point. And with 12:27 to go in the 3rd quarter, the San Diego Chargers are up by 10. So right now the NFC South standings look like this. Atlanta won again today, so only Atlanta and the Texans are undefeated 5-0. Tampa Bay 1-3 had a bye. Carolina loses to Seattle today 1-4, and the Saints will either be 1-4 or 0-5 as you look at Sean Payton, who gets to attend tonight's game even though he's not allowed to have any contact with the team. But Drew Brees, on the way back from Green Bay last week, emailed Roger Goodell, the commissioner, and asked for special permission since Peyton has meant so much to him to attend tonight's game. So he sits in his box but still has no contact with the team. 5 yards into the end zone. Here comes Sproles to the 20-yard line. Without question, it was the biggest story of the offseason. It shocked everybody. Mickey Loomis, the general manager, was suspended for 8 games. Sean Payton suspended for the entire season. Greg Williams, who had already gone to St. Louis as the defensive coordinator, suspended indefinitely. Joe Vitt, who's going to be the head coach at the end of October, suspended for the first 6 games. Those were the coaches and the front office, and then the players were involved too, including Will Smith and Jonathan Vilma. And you look at Joe Vitt, who's in the back on the left there. There is Vilma. Now, his suspension, at least for the moment, vacated. It doesn't matter because of a knee injury. He's on the physically unable to perform list. So it has been a tumultuous few months, of course, with the Saints.
Yeah, and I think the commissioner felt like he didn't get the whole story when he asked about it. And with this commissioner, if you're not going to be forthright when he asks you a question, you're going to pay a price for it.
Well, he felt that he was lied to and said that directly. The ball at the 19-yard line. The pass is behind Meacham. I mean, in effect, the league was investigating Bountygate over a year ago. And then the Saints apparently, I don't want to say got away with it. Maybe that's being a little harsh, but they didn't come clean. And then they went back in and looked at it. So in other words, this was a little bit in terms of the league, hubris. And sometimes the cover-up is worse than the crime.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you have to remember now the league's being sued by former players over safety issues, so they want to look like they're doing everything that they possibly can to try and make this league safe. And certainly those bounty situations, those don't look good.
2nd and 10, and into traffic, and that catch is made by Colston somehow between Jammer and Weddle, coming down with it, bad foot and all, and that's a first down.
I mean, sometimes you see throws that just sort of amaze you. This is one of those. Look at this tiny little window to fit this thing in. 2 guys running right towards your big star receiver, and still you pick up a first down. I think the running game is just about finished for the Saints tonight. On cue.
That's a 2.5 yard, it's a 3-yard gain for Pierre Thomas.
But you talk to these guys about it, and okay, they have 20 yards rushing in the first half, something like that, and so they try and get to it. But when the option is, all right, run the ball for 2 or 3 yards, or give the thing to Drew Brees, who just broke Dan Marino's record last year and Johnny Unitas's record tonight, it's a relatively easy choice.
Like 5-6.
Total of 11 carries tonight for 28 yards, about 2.5 yards per carry on the ground for the Saints. And then the pass goes to the outside, and that's Henderson who gets taken out of bounds by Kaysen after he picks up the first down at the 43-yard line.
Devery Henderson is that speed option on the football team now, and playing with the lead, the Chargers are going to give him a little extra room out there on the outside. But you know what the game is, because the Chargers have given up those double move long plays this season. They're just going to keep taking those, and try and set the bait on these 2 corners.
Like 5-6.
From the 42. It's Roby in the game in motion. Play action. That gives Brees a lot of time, and then the pass is dropped by Colston. Good protection that time in the pocket, but incomplete. 2nd down and 10.
It really was. We haven't talked much about Ben Grubbs, the left tackle who took over for Carl Nicks, who left via free agent at left guard over here. And of course on the other side you've got Jari Evans. But look at this. I mean, and they still can't complete the pass. But that's really where the money is spent on the Saints offensive line, because they want Brees to be able to have plenty of space there to see over the offensive line and work downfield.
Graham coming in and out in at the moment. And Brees into traffic again, deflected and incomplete. It almost was deflected back into the hands of Henderson after Marcus Colston was the intended receiver, and Jammer, who had the earlier pick, with the coverage. 3rd down.
Marcus Gilchrist tipped this ball straight up in the air, and it almost hit Devery Henderson mid-stride. Watch this. As a defensive back, just trying to get it out of there any way you can, and just missed.
So 3rd and 10 from the 42. Early 3rd quarter. Chargers up by 10. And before the snap, Carl Cheffers, the referee,
Prior
tells
to the
us
delay of game, timeout, New Orleans. Their first of the half.
clock had run down, but they take a timeout here. 10.5 to go in the 3rd. Well, on a night when the record gets broken by Brees, a look at the numbers, touchdowns and interceptions for each guy's 47-game streak. 40-yard TD passes. Johnny Unitas at 26, Brees 13, and tonight Brees's record-setting touchdown pass was good for 40 yards to Henderson.
Didn't it surprise you that Drew Brees wasn't signed earlier than he was, with all the activity going on around this franchise, that he seemed to be the one stabilizing force, and I just thought that was a mistake. And I think it showed earlier this season.
3rd down.
Well, the second time that he'd been involved in a situation, a little different obviously in San Diego. San Diego had to make that choice. You look at Mickey Loomis, who had a million things, of course, going on. In addition, in the middle of all of this, Tom Benson, who owns the team, buys the NBA's Hornets. So you got that. You got Loomis doing some work over there. You got Breeze out there. You got suspensions left and right. And now you got action again. And that's Zach Strief moving on the right side. And let's see if Cheffers makes it a 3rd and 20.
Ball start.
He
number
will.
64, offense. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
But I asked Drew about it on Friday, and he said, yeah, you know, I wasn't sharp to start this season. I just wasn't. I missed some reads that I ordinarily don't. You don't spend all summer together. You don't spend all spring in the OTAs and all that stuff. You got them off to a slow start. Now they can't get jump started.
3rd down and 20, and Breeze has a lot of time, flushed, and then throws, and that is incomplete. On the sideline, Marcus Colston can't hang on, and San Diego is going to get the ball back with 10:19.
You know, again, tremendous protection. The Chargers dropping back, playing coverage now. And you'll see Breeze again, like, get up. Where is he? I know. Let's go over here. Yeah, nobody over there. He's going to kill us. You know that, right? He's going to kill us for doing this.
You, not me.
Fred Goodell's idea,
right.
Producer.
Yes.
There you go, Fred.
Thomas Morstead. His punt is a short one this time and goes out of bounds in front of the San Diego bench at the 32-yard line. Rivers, since the free agency situation, which brought Breeze here, so Rivers and Breeze with fairly similar numbers. Breeze has had more success in postseason, and of course the big difference is that Breeze has that Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, two talented guys, and who knows what would have happened if Drew Brees hadn't been hurt in the last week of the season. Threw his shoulder out, and then of course surgery. Dr. Andrews trip to Miami, thought he might go to the Dolphins, and ended up landing here.
That was at the end of the 05 season. Out of the outside, and looked like Matthews was going to get away from Harper, who lives at the line of scrimmage despite being a safety, but down he goes. And it's 2nd down. It's interesting when San Diego, again, we talked about the draft Eli, trade him to New York, you know, within the hour, get Rivers. Now you got two guys. You got to pay him a lot of money. And there is Dean Spanos, the chairman of the board, the president of the Chargers. And it was a tough choice. I mean, you've got Rivers, you got Breeze in the prime, you got Breeze having wrecked his throwing shoulder the last day of the season against Denver. There were a lot of things in play. 2nd and 14. And you might have had a whistle here before the snap.
Delay of game.
You
Offense. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
And again, you know, you can't look at San Diego and say they blew it because you got Rivers, who's very good. And Chris, the other thing too is, if Breeze was so highly sought after, how come there are only two teams that even looked at him, Miami and New Orleans, and Miami finally said, nah, we're not taking a chance.
Yeah, but they looked at him after the shoulder surgery
right.
too. You know, I mean, you just wonder if he had gotten through that particular game, what kind of interest there might have been, because Rivers had not played to that point,
right,
other than sparingly, and you know, you had to give the number 4 overall pick a chance.
2nd and 19, inside handoff. And Matthews again turns a 2nd and long into a 3rd and relatively short. Let's go to Michelle.
Al, Saints corner Jabari Greer is done for the night. It's being termed a hip injury, but the Saints are telling me it's that same groin injury that's been nagging Greer since late July. And of course, Steve Spagnuolo told us, Al, that he tweaked that groin in Thursday's practice. So it's bad enough that he is done for the night, Al. And
Michelle just keeps building for the Saints. Graham in and out of the game. Now Greer out. White comes in. He's a rookie out of Sanford, 5th-round draft choice.
No Tracy Porter now.
No Porter. 3rd and 7. Porter in Denver. And Rivers throws, and that'll be a 1st down. That's Gates, who's been relatively quiet tonight. Antonio takes it up to the 49, tackled there by Harper as we tick down to 8 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter.
I tell you, Antonio Gates, for a big guy at tight end, has about as many moves as you're going to see. Watch this little loop-de-loop here on Roman Harper. I mean, he is so quick in small areas. It is just remarkable to watch him work. And this is, you know, he's not a young guy anymore. He's 32 years old, and usually those sort of quick twitch things go away a little bit at the end of the day, but Jimmy Graham, I think that's pretty good.
At the 48-yard line now. Matthews, only a 2-yard gain this time. Bryant up to the 50-yard line, and then Rosario, Dante Rosario is the number 2 tight end, number 88. He's a guy with Gates missing 1 game, week 2 against Tennessee. They brought Rosario into the starting lineup, and all he did that day is score 3 touchdowns.
Well, I mean, they have a team that you start to like a little bit. You know, defensively, they have so many good young players on this team now that you just get the feeling they're good now, but they have a chance to be really good by the end of the year.
At the 50, 2nd and 8. And that's caught, and that'll be a first down, and that's Ronnie Brown to the 40-yard line.
And when you play the New Orleans Saints, you tend to get all of your receivers out because you just don't believe they're going to get pressure with their front 4. And, you know, they're trying everything they've got. They've brought in different people, bring in Gillette, Junior Gillette, to come in off the edge. And, you know, they've got other guys they're taking a shot with. Martez Wilson, still no pressure, so you don't have to help in protection, so you get all 5 of your eligible receivers out, and it's too much on the back end.
1st and 10 at the 40-yard line. Play action for Rivers, dancing away, and then just throws it away. Chargers tonight, and here we are with 6 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, already have rung up 346 yards. We mentioned Saints last in the league defensively, which means you're last in terms of yardage given up. 463 yards a game against the Saints, and they're on a pace to give up almost 500 tonight.
Yeah, but you know, they've made a few to play down on the goal line. When they got the short field, they held them there, and they need to do it again. Their offense needs help tonight, and that's something we haven't been used to saying.
2nd and 10. And Rivers is going to get sacked. Curtis Lofton came blitzing through the middle linebacker, the guy who's taken that spot with what Vilma would normally play, getting the sack.
I've got to say, I've really been impressed with Curtis Lofton. They bring him over. Here he is coming up, and he's going to get there. But it was a tough situation for him. I mean, the guys around here love Jonathan Vilma, and there he is over on the sideline, and yet it's Lofton who's having to try and lead this defense and be the emotional spark plug that Vilma once was. And the guys are split in some of their loyalties at the linebacker position.
Peyton watching 3rd and 22 after the 12-yard sack. They give it to Brown, and Brown will take the ball to the 46-yard line. Gillette makes the tackle, and San Diego will send in the punting group.
You know, Al, I have to say, for the New Orleans Saints, this is a pretty good defensive effort tonight against a good offensive team. Where they've been let down tonight is their offense just cannot get it going. And the lack of a running game has made them a little too one-dimensional as they play this year.
That's a good point in terms of that running game. Again, 11 carries for the Saints, 28 yards. Chargers, meanwhile, have 115 yards on the ground. Sproles will call for and make the fair catch at the 11-yard line. 4.5 to go in the 3rd. 24-14 Chargers. Meanwhile, the long snapper, Mike Wint, was down on the ground. It looked scary for about 2 minutes. And he goes to the bench. They'll check him out as we resume play at the 13-yard line for the New Orleans Saints. And Breeze gets it away to the outside, and that's a 9-yard gain to Henderson. You think a long snapper doesn't mean much, but just ask the Chargers and the Oakland Raiders on opening night when Oakland lost the game because of losing a long snapper.
Yeah, Breeze starting to see some pressure come off the edge now, and he's having to get rid of that ball quickly. Jammer and Kaysen still giving plenty of room on the outside, but you can only throw so many out routes in this league before somebody goes and gets one of those.
2nd and 1. Ingram is the running back. Collins comes in to play fullback. And Breeze will throw a slant that's dropped by Joseph Morgan. So it'll be 3rd down and 1.
Well, the Chargers, their motto has been attack, attack, attack this year, and that's exactly what they've been doing. They felt like the one game that they did not attack was the Falcons, and they had a bad day. So from that moment on, it has been game on, and Corey Legion, I think, is one of the up-and-coming stars in this league. But pressure leads to turnovers, and that's what's happened in that one.
3rd and 1, and can they get the yard they need on the ground? It's going to be very, very close. Mark Ingram. And let's see where they spot this one. Again, they need that 1 yard. They're going to stop the clock and bring the chains in. That's how tough it's been for New Orleans on the ground tonight.
Let's see if we can eyeball this one. It looks like he got over the line, didn't it? That initial surge kind of got up and started coming down on the other side, and never know where they marked it, but at least from where that yellow line was, looked like he got over it.
This would be the Saints' first rushing first down of the game, if indeed it is, and it will be by half the length of the football.
I tell you, so many times, especially when you're not playing well, that first down is sometimes the hardest one to get. You just have to get a little forward momentum going here, and you know, even inside the building, you know, usually the energy in this building and the energy on the sideline is just so much greater than this. They're just waiting for something to happen to get them going.
At the 23 now on first down. And Breeze will go down in the arms of Sean Phillips. So Sean Phillips, who played at Purdue with Breeze, then played in San Diego with Breeze, renews acquaintances.
Well, with Breeze, somebody usually blocked him, but that time they end up with a tight end or a wide out just trying to get a chip, and for Sean Phillips, there's no way in the world that Courtney Roby's going to be able to block him. And don't know if Jed Collins went the wrong way in motion or what, but somebody has to pick up the other team's best pass rush.
2nd and 16. Breeze spreading it out. Since 5 into the pattern, and that's going to be picked off at the 26, but there's a flag down. Demario Williams, for the moment, is going to take it into the end zone pending the penalty.
Breeze got hit right in the face. This is going to go the other
foul.
way.
Roughing the passer, number 54, defense for lowering his helmet and hitting the quarterback with the crown of his helmet. 15-yard penalty, automatic. First down.
That's their first round draft choice, the rookie Melvin Ingram out of South Carolina.
Makes a brilliant move to get back inside, but it's just going to hit Breeze right in the helmet. And so many times you see rookies come in this league, and it's the illegal contact beyond 5 yards. It's the helmet-to-helmet stuff. It's all the stuff that they're not so used to right underneath the chin. Good call, fine coming.
Ready for shot.
And that takes a touchdown away from Demario Williams on the interception. And then an 8-yard gain as they finally get a decent run from Pierre Thomas.
Well, they're trying to go with this big package now, and with Jimmy Graham out of there, they're putting Dave Thomas and Daniel Graham in, and now starting to run in that direction behind them. And if they could just establish something on the ground, it would really help.
Graham in at the moment. You got Sproles lined up inside of him. You go 3-by-1 to the left. And Thomas offset in the backfield. 2nd and 2. Thomas takes the swing and then picks up the first down before losing his footing. The 44-yard line, tackled by Jammer, and we go under 2 minutes to play in the quarter.
Yeah, statistically, the fourth quarter, the Saints don't run too much. Obviously, they've been behind and having to play catch up, but they've had leads in every game. They just haven't been able to finish it. I think Drew Brees is just going to take over this game now, calling everything at the line.
Have led in every game this year by 4 or more. And on the ground, and that time a good tackle is made as Thomas runs right into Spikes. It'll be 2nd and 6.
That time Jimmy Graham just could not get a block on Spikes coming inside. I'm sure he's working off that ankle, but Takeo Spikes been around for a long time, and when he squares you up, you're going to feel it. He's not playing as much, down to about 25, 30 plays a game. He says, just don't care, get me to the playoffs.
2nd down and 6. Backside screen, Thomas inside the 40. Thomas to the 17-yard line before he is tackled by Kaysen after a gain that time of 35 yards.
Anytime you get a block on the man coverage guy coming out, here they were man coverage, you get him blocked, and then everybody else is chasing people down the field. And so finally, after a long delay, Drew Brees has got it going.
At the 16 now. This will be the 9th play of the drive. Final minute of the quarter.
Jimmy Graham is just a decoy at this point.
Brees over the middle and it's caught for the touchdown by Marcus Colston. Marcus Colston with his 2nd touchdown catch of the night. Drew Brees has thrown his 3rd touchdown pass of the night. And it comes with 11 seconds to go in the 3rd.
Just a little fake to the outside, back inside, just enough to get Eric Weddle off his mark. And what a difference Marcus Colston has made. He was huge last week in the Packer game and is coming back with another big one now.
So the personal foul penalty was a killer on the drive, which goes 87 yards in 9 plays, and Hartley's extra point makes it a 3-point game. 11 seconds to go in the 3rd. It's now 24-21 San Diego. Of course, pink is the theme tonight all around the National Football League. And this is Goodman. He's going to bring it out from about 7 yards in, and Goodman up the middle, taken down at the 29-yard line. With 6 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. 3-point game. Six seconds to go in the quarter. 1st and 10 from the 29-yard line. And here is Matthews for a short gain, and that's going to take us into the final quarter. 24-21 after 3. Sunday Night Football back after these messages. The Chargers have the ball in the 3-point lead. It's 2nd down and 8 as we start the 4th. Rivers is thrown for 245 tonight. And over the middle and knocked away by Harper. Harper going back to cover Eddie Royal on the play, and it will be 3rd down.
Another nice play out here by Harper, just trailing the receiver and able to get his hands on the football. You know, Harper last year, what was he, had 7.5 sacks, something like that, to lead all defensive backs in the league, and none this year. It's a completely different defense, a lot more zones. Used to be last year, it was like, hey, I got you, and let's go play football.
3rd and 8. Rivers, deep drop, throws up his back foot, and incomplete as Gates had to spin around, lost it in the air, and it's 4th down.
Every time they get on a big down situation, the 2 safeties end up inverting. I may have that the wrong way, but one goes high, one goes low, and the reason they're doing that is they're trying to jump Antonio Gates. Well, Gates sees that, and Rivers sees that, so they're trying to work to the outside of it. They're just unable to get hooked up there.
Looked inside, then had to look outside, and it was too late. Cypress's punt is a booming, very high kick, with Sproles Fields at the 9-yard line, and that's a great open field tackle there to stop him in his tracks by Darrell Stuckey. More on the streak tonight, which we saw broken. Breeze 33-14, Unitas 31-15. And of course, in terms of championships, Unitas with 2, Breeze with the Super Bowl win. And you can't think about Johnny Unitas without thinking about the fact he played in probably the 2 most significant games in the history of the National Football League. The 58 overtime game at Yankee Stadium where the Colts beat the Giants, and then Super Bowl III when Joe Namath won the game. But those 2 games vaulted the NFL into the king position in American sport. Sproles up to the 21-yard line. So they begin this drive with a first down, a gain of 10.
Well, Jimmy Graham's doing the best that he can out here on the outside. This is a play designed just to get one-on-one blocking with Graham and a cornerback. And Graham, despite the fact you can see him limping around out there and has been used more as a decoy than anything else, hustle to make that block.
From the 20.
Ready for shot.
They run a draw with Thomas. Swings to the outside, and a good bit of running there, and Thomas taking Weddle with him for a gain of 13.
Wow, what a cut in the
down.
hole by Pierre Thomas there. Takeo Spikes looks like he had him dead to rights coming up here. And watch this little jump cut here. Right
Coming
there.
back.
Nope.
But coming back.
Repeat first down.
Boy, that was a pretty run.
Penalty is on Jari Evans.
Jari Evans, a little grab of the jersey, I guess.
Meanwhile, Sean Phillips shaken up on the play, so he'll have to come out for at least 1 play. And that'll make it first down and 20 as it comes back to the 10-yard line.
You know, Sean Phillips, out, what did he miss, 4 or 5 games last year, had 11 sacks the year before, just 3.5 last year, and 3.5 coming into this game already. He is the key guy, and replaced now by Larry English.
Yep, it looks like he'll be out for more than 1 play as he buckles the chin strap, and Breeze goes back on first and 20 and fires over the middle, and that's caught up at the 22-yard line for a gain of 12 yards. As Greg Camarillo makes his 3rd catch of the night.
Did you see the chip by Jimmy Graham on the outside? He's got a bad ankle. Doesn't mean he can't block. Right out here. Just takes down Jarrett Johnson and gives Breeze plenty of time to throw the football.
Now 2nd and 8. And Camarillo again on a slant and a first down. So very quickly, what was a 1st and 20 becomes a 1st and 10 now as Breeze takes them up to the 34-yard line.
Isn't it amazing? A lot of teams 1st and 20 from inside their 10-yard line and think, okay, let's run it, be safe here, not take any chances. Let's just hit the go button for Drew Brees.
Mike 5-6, ready.
Breeze is now thrown for 301 yards tonight. And a whistle stops the play.
Sean Payton almost looked miserable up there, didn't he?
Probably is.
Just the idea of sitting there and watching his team trying to survive going 0-5.
Defense 12 men in the formation. 5-yard penalty. First down.
So that's a play that the new rule gets stopped before the snap. And the ball is at the 39-yard line. So it's first down and 5.
Ready. Ready for shot.
Thomas. Look at that.
Oh,
A helmet comes loose. And the minute the helmet comes off, the play is over at that point. End of play.
Nobody told Pierre Thomas, and you want to be respected in this league. Listen to this ovation. Helmet comes off, and Pierre Thomas wants no part of the new rule that says stop the play. He's going to keep fighting, and goodness knows what happens from here. Got a face mask to the back of the helmet. Tough guy. Crazy, but tough guy.
Rule put in a few years ago after Jason Witten went for about 20 extra yards without a helmet. 2nd down and 1 now. And Breeze going deep, and it's caught at the 16-yard line. Henderson tackled by Jammer. And the Saints now making it look easy, and Jammer's slow in getting up. 41 yards.
Well, here's that same play, but now they're going to bring somebody across. The safety's going to jump that, and there's nobody at home in the middle of the field against the post. So it's the same sort of theory with that deep crossing route, but this time the safety gets caught up on the crosser, and there goes Henderson down the field for another big one.
Ingram is the tailback. Here's Ingram. And he gets stuck at the line, and then the ball is out. But the Saints still have it. Takeo Spikes was right there for the tackle, and they mark him down there. End of play at the 13-yard line before it comes out.
Go back to that play prior. You get a chance to see the safety as this crossing route develops is going to come out of the middle of the field, Eric Weddle, and there's nobody home on the back end. You get hit enough on that crossing route, leaves single coverage, and that is tough on a cornerback like Quentin Jammer to have to cover all of that ground.
2nd down and 7. Thomas is the running back. The fake to him. They come in around with Sproles, and Sproles cannot get outside. Hanging right with him is Jarrett Johnson, the longtime Baltimore Raven, came over in the offseason.
Yeah, Jarrett Johnson looked like he got fooled initially and then just recovered. He was starting to go back over the top, and then he comes back the other way when he sees the reverse. The old warhorse, he knows his days are limited. Melvin Ingram, the draft pick, is going to take his job eventually. But what a stabilizing force he's been on this defense, and so tough against the run.
Sean Phillips has come back into the game. It's 3rd down and 8. And Breeze will sling it, and at the 5-yard line, it is caught for a 1st down by Colston. Colston going to the ground, and what a night for him. 7 catches.
Back-to-back weeks, and there's just such a difference on this team when you've got a veteran receiver that's come back and healthy again, gets beyond the sticks there, comes back and makes a nice catch, and boy, the Saints have it going right now.
Colston caught 9 last week in Green Bay, 7 tonight, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. 1st and goal at the 5-yard line. And with a fade, and that is flags all over the place, and Colston is in for the touchdown. Kaysen with the coverage, but Colston at inside position. Sheffers to make it official here.
Interference, number 20, defense. That penalty declined. Touchdown.
90 yards, 9 plays.
Brought everybody, but they slide the line right into it. Breeze knows he can't get it all picked up. Just throw it up to the big guy, who has been nothing short of brilliant tonight. Everybody in the house knew what was coming, still couldn't stop it. And now we're going to get the Saints crowd. Yeah, they're going again a little bit now.
It's the Houdat.
It is something to come to one of these ball games and look at the party going on all over town. Bands playing, costumes everywhere you look. They love the Saints there.
So you saw the owner, Tom Benson, the longtime owner of the team. The Saints going 90 yards, 9 plays in a little less than 6 minutes, and Hartley will try to make it a 4-point lead, which he does with 8:50 left in the 4th quarter in the Big Easy. It hasn't been easy, but the Saints have the lead again, 28-24. Well, Archie Manning decides he's going to get into the restaurant business in this great restaurant town with Manning's, which opened up earlier this year. You can't eat here, by the way.
Yes, you can. We had a good meal there the other night. It was very good.
4-point game. This is Goodman taking it from the end zone out to the 19-yard line with 8:46. Raphael Bush makes the tackle. 28-24, home team. .846, San Diego down by 4. We'll start with a little flip to Matthews. And Matthews having a big night out to the 31-yard line. They start with a gain of 14 and a first down.
Now this screen pass has hurt the Saints in this game. Trying to get a little pressure off the edge and just haven't quite had an answer for that. So now here comes the pass rushers back in the game. Junior Galette coming in, Martez Wilson. They'll play pass from here on.
Chargers with a win would be 2 games up in the division, but right now down by 4 as the Saints try to get off the schneid. And again, they send it out to Matthews. And this time Matthews to the 37. You know, Chris, I think one really big play tonight when San Diego had that 10-point lead and that big sack by Lofton coming through the middle to turn a second and whatever, not much, into a third and forever.
Yeah, the other play, that Pierre Thomas play where the helmet came off and all that kind of stuff, set up a 2nd and 1. And then they finally ran it enough to get the play action pass in for the long play down the field to Henderson.
Another big play, of course, was the personal foul on the rookie Ingram, negating a touchdown. Now a backside flip, and that one goes out for a first down here as well to Dante Rosario. So Rosario, the backup tight end, talked about him earlier, 3 touchdowns in the game against Tennessee to the 47 of the Saints.
This play's been torturing defenses around the league. You get your tight end that looks like he's blocking, then he just sort of sneaks behind the linebackers. You've seen guys around the NFL over the past year just get wide open on that play, and nobody really seems to have an answer for it.
Spagnuolo watching his defense, which has now yielded 377 yards tonight from the 47-yard line. Brown is the back. The fake to him, and then Rivers just a run for his life and just throw it into the New Orleans bench because Harper came in on the blitz. 2nd and 10.
Yeah, and it hurt because Ronnie Brown really didn't know what the call was, and he was up there with his arms raised and saying, what the heck are we doing here? Watch him. He's like, what? What do you want? And then he gets back, and then he gets beat by Harper on the blitz, and that's what flushes Phillip Rivers out of the pocket.
Six and a half remaining. 2nd and 10. They just do get the playoff. And Rivers goes down in the arms of Junior Galette.
Couple of things going on this one. Not only does Junior Galette make a Dwight Freeney move to get the sack, but Martez Wilson over here is going to take away Ronnie Brown, and that's where Rivers wanted to go. And as he was staring out there, can't throw it there. Here comes Galette for the sack.
So 3rd down and 18 now. And Rivers guns it over the middle, and it is deflected and picked off. Harper into San Diego territory with an escort, and finally out of bounds. So Harper had a big sack and then a pick off the deflection on a pass intended for Floyd.
Well, Malcolm Jenkins, this is going to be close to pass interference. Does he get there too soon? Kind of goes over the top, maybe gets his hands on the ball, and then Harper's there to clean it up. There was definitely a little contact prior to that catch. But in this place, Got to worry about somebody putting some voodoo on you if you call pass interference.
Definitely over the back. The Charger bench erupted. So first down from the 23-yard line. First pick for Harper in 2 seasons, and this is Phillips making the tackle at the 20-yard line. Thomas, short gain. Breeze on a night when he eclipses Johnny Unitas's streak. 17th game with 4 TD passes, tied for the 4th most in the history of the league. Favre with 23 would be the record holder. Thomas will get stopped at the 19-yard line. And for the Charger defense now, a very important 3rd down stop coming up to try to limit the Saints to, at best, a field goal and keep it a 1-possession game.
Where they had a play going there, but Jed Collins, the fullback, got tripped up, and so he couldn't get a piece of Takeo Spikes. Otherwise, that one might have been the first down.
Four and a half remaining. 3rd and 6. Breeze out of the gun. Chargers coming on the blitz. And Breeze will throw, and it will be taken at the 5-yard line by Colston. What a game for number 12.
Drew Brees just has a way of finding throwing lanes. It's remarkable. First of all, you're going to get the crossing route here, and watch this adjustment by Colston. Go get this ball. That looks easy, but in traffic, you know you're in danger. But it was Drew Brees who did just a little slide to his right to create that throwing lane that made that play happen.
9 catches for Colston, 131 yards, and into the end zone 3 times. And a whistle before the play.
False start, number 85, offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Number 2 tight end David Thomas.
Yeah, they've been going a lot of that 2 tight end look over there to try and get a little power stuff going, but what a night for Colston, huh? After 153 yards last week, 131 tonight. Been on a show.
Bad foot and all. 1st and goal from the 10. Through the middle. Sproles. It'll be 2nd down and goal. Colston tying a career high with 3 touchdowns, and again, back-to-back games with 9 receptions. Had 9 for 153 and 1 score last week at Lambeau.
And with Jimmy Graham out, now Colston inside is typically where they like to work.
2nd and goal. Breeze on a roll, and the pass is incomplete. Colston trailed by Gilchrist, and again a huge 3rd down stop here for San Diego to try to keep it as a 1-possession game.
You know, the other thing is that Lance Moore, the other receiver, is out of this one as well. So very limited options when Jimmy Graham got hurt. And so Marcus Colston really became the guy that he trusts most, along with Devery Henderson. And those 2 guys have delivered big.
There's Lance Moore. Hamstring pull.
I'm just going to tell you here, Darren Sproles is usually the guy. Right now, a little option route if they play man coverage.
He flares out of the backfield, and it's deflected. You were right. Sproles is the guy he's going to, but Corey Liuget got a hand up, and that's going to limit the Saints to a field goal attempt and keep San Diego into a 1-possession situation.
I think it saved them here. Just a little out and back in kind of route. And if Liuget doesn't get his hands on the ball, you tell me. Keep your eye on Corey Liuget. That young man, after watching him on tape for a couple of weeks, I'm impressed. I think he is going to be a star in this league.
Hartley for the 26-yard attempt. That is good. So 2:56 left. Chargers all of their timeouts. New Orleans on top 31-24. New Orleans, and there's the Mississippi River bending its way through this southern Louisiana town on a Sunday night. A 7-point lead and the kickoff, and Goodman's going to come out from 8 yards deep. And not a wise choice as he gets stopped at the 14-yard line by Ramon Humber. Rivers goes to work. Numbers on the quarterbacks tonight. Breeze throwing 4 touchdown passes, 3 of them to Colston. 280 yards through the air for Rivers, 370 for Breeze. Norv Turner in these one-possession games, 49, 67, and 1. Second from the bottom, Dick Vermeil, who won a Super Bowl, would be last or first on that list, whichever way you want to look at it. Ball at the 15-yard line, first down. And Rivers avoids the sack, then hits Floyd on the run. And Floyd, who's been pretty quiet after a big first quarter, out to the 39, tackled by Robinson. Gain of 24.
Boy, that is just fantastic. Ryan Matthews sifted his way through this. Look at all the defensive backs coming on the blitz here, and Matthews sticks his guy and gives plenty of time to work against the depleted secondary.
Rivers will sling it out to the outside, and this is Brown, and Brown will get taken out of bounds by Robinson. San Diego has all of its timeouts plus the 2-minute warning, a ton of time.
You know, Philip Rivers would never admit it, but you just wonder what it means to him going against Drew Brees. You know, they played together. Brees was let go because of Rivers to come into this place and finish this drive. It's got to mean a little bit extra.
No doubt. They faced each other before, but that game was played in London in 08, and the Saints won it. 2nd and 4. Again, they flip it out to Brown, and that's a great slip move. And then Brown vaults forward to the 45-yard line, first down. And it's going to tick down to the 2-minute warning. All of their timeouts. Breeze going over the pictures, and Rivers trying to lead a game-tying drive. 2 minutes to go in New Orleans. Saints by 7. Two minutes to go. San Diego at the 45 of the Saints. Royal in motion to the near side. Rivers stepping up under pressure. And Rivers with a flag thrown will go down at the 48-yard line. So Carl Sheffer steps in and signals a hold against San Diego. He looks over to Cromer to say, you want 1st and 20 or you want the play here?
Holding, number 66, offense. That penalty's declined. 2nd down.
A little double coverage on the outside on Malcolm Floyd, and it's the 2nd time we've seen coverage sacks on Philip Rivers tonight. Now he's got his work cut out for him. Antonio Gates is usually the first option to get him out of the hole here.
It was a 7-yard sack, so it could have been 1st and 20, but Cromer opts for 2nd and 17 to take the extra down away. And now Rivers has to backpedal, and Rivers throws, and it's caught by Gates, and Gates has a first down at the 25, and a flag comes into the end of that play. And the Chargers are saying, what? It's going back against us. You can tell by the body language.
Pass interference, number 85, offense. 10-yard penalty.
Wow. There was a little nudge on the top end of the route. Sometimes you can get away with this, but on this one you're going to see a little arm extended. Usually if the arm's bent and you push with the elbow, you get away with it. Ooh.
You tell me.
I'd like to see a different side of that one, but wow, that is a huge call in the ball game.
Whew.
And I think the fact that Roman Harper fell down influenced the official a little bit, but there was definitely a little nudge off. I mean, I can't deny that. Oh, boy, not much.
Yeah.
That's not much at all.
2nd and 27. And this time it is caught by Floyd, and they get about 22 of those 27 back, and now you have another flag back at the 33-yard line.
Holding. Number 61 offense. 10-yard penalty. 2nd down.
And that's Nick Hardwick, the center.
Well, San Diego fans are going to be looking for the replacement officials.
Yes, they will be.
There you go. I don't have to circle the center, I don't think. Nick Hardwick battling one-on-one. Got a little tug of the jersey. Wow, just huge plays being taken off the board one after another.
And the Chargers are thinking to themselves, where was the interference call that wasn't called on the interception?
Wow. 2nd and 37 after you hit two of the biggest plays of the night.
From the 28-yard line. Rivers deep downfield. Another flag is thrown, and the ball's going to wind up on the ground at the 22. Intended for Meacham. Jenkins was back there. Here comes another call.
All you can hope for that the Chargers a defensive
right,
foul,
which is an automatic first down. Exactly. Even a 5-yard defensive foul penalty is an automatic first down.
Illegal use of hands to the face, number 95 defense. 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
So that's the way you get to a first down off a 2nd and 37.
Martez Wilson. Man, oh man, what a bizarre ending to this one. Martez Wilson right in there is where that happened. There he comes right at you. Hands to the face. Good call.
So from 2nd and 37 to a first down to give San Diego life. They're still 67 yards away, a minute and a half, and they have all their timeouts. And Rivers will throw, and that's Ronnie Brown. And Brown will spin his way for a first down, stays inbounds.
Ronnie Brown has some nice open field moves. He has made people miss consistently on this drive. May want to try and get him the ball a little more often.
Chargers elect to keep all of their timeouts, but they're taking a lot of time off the clock here. And now there's a conference with Sheffers. Because did he pick up the first down is the question. It was first down. It was a gain. Now he looks at it. Yeah, it was an 11-yard gain, so obviously it's a first down. But there's some question as to. And then Norv Turner is saying, put the time back on the clock. Here's the end of the play. Here's Brown. He spins. He rolls. He has the first down. Turner doesn't get the time back on the clock. The pass to the outside, and that is Floyd, and Floyd will stay inbounds.
That's horrible.
At the 49-yard line, and now they're compelled to take a timeout.
It's almost like he thought he was out of bounds. Well, he did try to get out of bounds. I'll say that for him, but nice job by Johnny Patrick to keep him from that. That's just a good play in the forward momentum. Just a good play on that one.
Right. Acrobatic catch by Floyd. Can't get out of bounds.
Right, watch him here.
He's trying.
And that's forward momentum. He was definitely driving him backwards. Official blew the whistle, properly called.
Not according to Turner. 2nd down and 2. The ball is at the 49 of the Saints.
This is good stuff.
53 seconds. 2 timeouts. Over the middle. It's caught at the 44. A short gain. Malcolm Floyd to the 43. That moves the chains. Clock still running. Inside 40 by the time they get this one snapped. The ball is at the 43-yard line. Rivers, a little dump off. And that's going to take it to the 33 where Brown, and they're going to have to take a timeout here, and they do. So 28 seconds remaining. One timeout left, and they have to navigate 33 yards.
Tell you one thing that Philip Rivers and Norv Turner do a great job of is using that motion to help them determine if it's man or zone. You could see them that time when they put somebody in motion. If there was someone trailing them, they went to their man route. If not, they went to their zone guy. But now the clock is ticking, and all that back and forth on those penalties ate up precious time for the San Diego Chargers.
At the 33. Meacham and Royal come to the right. Floyd to the left. The pass is incomplete, yet Gates over the middle, and Gates is screaming that he was held. No flag.
Well, Gates is going to give it the arm over. He's sick of this. Watch this. Harper's going to get off. He's like, get off of me. Almost like a postman in basketball. He said, you called me, let's call it both ways, but there was no foul there.
2nd and 10. And the pass is incomplete because the pressure was put on, and that time it was Martez Wilson who knocks Rivers to the turf. Rivers gets up and looks for a flag and gets none, and it's 3rd down and 10.
Martez Wilson coming off the edge here and not sure whether or not Ryan Matthews was supposed to get a chip, but I'll tell you, Gaither looks lame. He's going to have to get some help here. Wilson's going to get a sack to end this game. They have to realize now that Jared Gaither is really hurt. Don't know if his back locked up or what, but he's having a tough time moving. They put Gates that way.
Ronnie Brown in the backfield on 3rd and 10. And Rivers is going to lose the ball. And you called it. It's Martez Wilson coming around for the sack fumble and the exclamation point on this one.
Nobody saw it. You could see it on the play before. He couldn't move. Right here, going to come around, and Gaither, watch him. He just can't move. He's limping out there. He's doing his best. He should have turned around to Philip Rivers and said, either I've got to go out or you have to give me help on this side. He didn't do it, and Martez Wilson made him pay.
That's the hat trick for a defender. You get a sack, a forced fumble, and a recovery. And the Saints finally get off the schneid before their bye week, and they go to 1-4. So a big night for Breeze. Peyton's able to look on. And a history-making night and a victory for the home team over the San Diego Chargers, who now go to 3-2. And only the Chargers since 1933 have started a season 0-4 and gone to the playoffs, and that is the mountain that they'll try to climb.